Hey all you witches and beautiful spiritualists, it's me, Prosperity Witch Ellie. Welcome back, welcome if you're new. So today I have a different topic than the norm. I have been kind of reading a lot of books and just doing my own thing as of lately, and I have been kind of semi-deep diving into a form of magical practice that I'm already familiar with, and that in a way I practice, so I figured why not talk about it. Let's have fun with it. Today we are talking about the magical practice of folk magic. So in my opinion, this is one of the most fundamental yet at the same time overlooked forms of magical practice, and a lot of people seem to take it for granted because it can blend very well and seamlessly almost with our mundane day-to-day lives. So whether you've been practicing the craft for a while or you're even new, in my opinion, folk magic has something that's very grounding, deeply personal, and honestly, very accessible. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Grab yourself a drink, maybe a snack. As always, I never know how long these videos are gonna be, and let's talk about it. So what is folk magic? Well, in relatively simple terms, it is the magic of the people. It is practices that are born from daily life, shaped by local cultures, and in some cases, passed down through generations. Again, it is simple, practical, and personal. It is a practice that does not require some ornate or fancy tools or secret initiations. Simply, this practice thrives in the hands of anyone with intentions, resourcefulness, and most importantly, necessity. Okay, so what, in my opinion, are the core traits, if you will, of folk magic? So let's start with the most repetitive thing that I've said probably ever on this channel and just in this video so far, and that is its accessibility. So if you're not new here, one thing you've heard me say time and time again is always use what's available to you. Now, yes, over time, if you've been doing your thing for a while, you might have accumulated a bunch of tools or spell ingredients from various occult shops or places around, but the one beautiful thing that I really do love about this style of practice is, again, its accessibility. You can go in your kitchen, get some salt and some herbs. I'm sure some of us have some thread lying around in case a spell that we need or a ritual that we need requires a certain piece of thread. And I mean, hell, let's go back to the kitchen again. You can go in your kitchen for various tools like knives. What's another tool that I use that I keep in my kitchen? Magnets? I mean, I have magnets on my fridge. Point being, you get the idea. Folk magic is something that should be accessible. You should be able to use what you already have at home or just almost immediately around you versus going hours away or like miles down the road to get certain things. The other thing about folk magic, the other key trait, if you will, is that it comes out of necessity or purpose. It is purpose driven. In a lot of different ways, I like to say that folk magic is the style of magic that most people practice when they're simply just trying to keep their heads above the water in their day-to-day life. Whether it comes from simple healing spells to get over a common cold, protection for various things, love, luck, or any other kind of everyday blessing that you relatively could do. In my opinion, folk magic is that of I need this or I want this right now in this immediate moment, so I'm casting for it. Another trait, if you will, that I've associated with folk magic is that it comes from a ancestral or local land type influence. And what I mean by that is that most folk practices evolve through the family, through the land that the people are around, and just through communal spaces. Not spaces, communal traditions, that's what I meant. To put it simply, obviously before we had the internet and everything, we were all really only aware of the people immediately around us, our communities and our families, right? So a lot of folk traditions came from the people and how they viewed the world around them, which this kind of segues and ties into the final trait that I've associated with folk magic, and that it blends natural and spiritual and mundane knowledge almost seamlessly. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is even if you don't come from a specific cultural folk tradition, you can still practice folk magic by connecting to your environment around you, your personal story, and your everyday experiences. Okay, so let's talk about some examples of using folk magic in everyday life. It is my personal thought process that folk magic happens quietly in spaces such as our homes, our hearth, and for the people, with the people around us. Some examples could be using moonlight, water, and smoke to bless or cleanse your space for specific purposes, cooking or cleaning with magical intent, both of which I've actually done for different videos on this channel. I'll leave the cards up there and down in the description below. Think like knot magic as well. So tying strings, even tying your shoes, certain ways to entrap or keep things with you, and then when you're ready to release them, untying them. Could also be making a certain drink for a certain reason. For example, my vanilla chai, which I have here. I always make myself a cup of vanilla chai when I know I have something that I gotta do, gotta get done. And so I always make it with the specific purpose of calming my mind, helping me focus, ground, and center myself to get through the task that I have at hand. Just a, little ADHD witchy hack there if you're like me. But you guys get the idea, right? So folk magic happens at the hearth, happens at the home, with everyday tools around you and for the most mundane things. But again, as I said, it is the type of magic that you can do to keep your head above the water in whatever way you need to. I mean, another cutthroat and clear example of folk magic would honestly be blowing out a birthday candle on your birthday, right? It's not really seen as something magical, but it is. You're putting intent, if you're, actually focusing on it, but you're putting intent into something that you want to come into being and releasing it by blowing out this candle. Yeah, honestly, let's talk about this. So what is something small that you feel like you already do in your day-to-day life that could be a little magical even if it didn't seem that way before? Leave it in the comments. Anyway, so let's talk about cultural respect and personal adaptations. So from my understanding, so much of folk magic is deeply rooted in the living culture around us, so it's important to approach it respectfully, right? Learn about the traditions that you're pulling your practices from, why they did what they did, give credit where credit is due, when you can, of course. And most importantly, avoid treating cultural practices like some sort of interchangeable aesthetic. This is often where cultural appropriation comes into play, or at least the fact that we want to avoid it. So I like to say that you can cultivate your own personal folkways or personal practices and often leave them to be inspired by your cultural background, by the land around you, the environment around you, and often the everyday rhythms, if you will, of your everyday life. So enough about that, because that's a topic I feel like I can go into a different video. Why does folk magic matter? So in a world that seems so complicated and at times so very disconnected, I like to think that folk magic often reminds us that magic itself is not about having the fanciest of tools or even doing the most elaborate of rituals. I like to think it's about you and the relationship between you and the world. I mean, plenty of y'all have heard me say this a plenty of times. A lot of times when I'm doing a certain spell, it's because, again, I need that type of energy, or I need whatever I'm casting for relatively in that moment at that time. So of course, I'm gonna go into my witchy closet that I have right next to me, pull out what I can, what best matches what I'm trying to cast for, and go from there. Now, I'm not saying that I do this all the time. I mean, I do it more often than not. But if I have time to plan and prep for a ritual, then I will. But more often than not, I don't, so I can't, and I just gotta get done what I need and go from there. So yeah, in a more blunt way of saying it, sometimes I like to think that folk magic is a style of magic for the person who's like, I need to get this done now and I got no time. It's like slapping together that last minute project for your school that you should have done way early in the week, but it's time, it's due, and so you need to get it done. No, but in all seriousness, folk magic has evolved and grown in so many ways from the past, right? Because, I mean, we went from a world that was so disconnected where nobody knew anyone outside of their village or their city or whatever, to now where I have friends all across the continent and even all across the world. And it's because of those connections that I now have due to the internet, where I can reach out and learn about their culture, and if it's something that I want to apply and put into my practice, as long as I do it respectfully and well, I feel like I can. Of course, there are some practices that I won't touch, that I won't do, but I mean, that should be obvious. But as I've said, folk magic teaches us that there is power in the mundane, that there is wisdom in simplicity and magic in the hands of the everyday person. Anyways, if this video resonated with you, share in the comments below what your thoughts and ideas about folk magic are, and let's have a discussion about it. As always, you know I love reading what you guys have to say and engaging with you, so let's do it. Because of course there are so many types and styles of folk magic out there, but it all starts with this, that being you, the connections, intention, practicality, and care. Anyways, guys, I feel like I've rambled on for a good bit, so again, leave in the comments below anything and everything to do with folk magic. Let's talk about it, and I'm gonna go. So as always, y'all, make wise choices, make delicious pizza, share this video with someone who you think would be interested in this topic or any other topic that I have to share on this channel, and subscribe for more in the future. I totally just mixed up my outro. Anyway, make wise choices, make delicious pizza. Love you all. Bye.